All right, all right, all right. We're gonna learn today. So, today I want to talk about Zithembe, meaning trust yourself. Zithembe. The first point is what is trust, right? So, let's look up the definition of trust. So, trust is the firm belief in the reality or truth. What's happening now? Let's go back. Why is Google always wanting me to buy to download their app? I'm fine with the browser, bro. Okay, so trust is the firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability of someone or something, or it is an agreement whereby a person holds property as its nominal owner. So, like a trust, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the verb, right? Which is believe in reliability, truth, and the ability of. So, basically, having faith or firm belief in oneself, yourself, right? And the reason why a lot of people don't have trust in themselves is because that hasn't been instilled in them when they were children. So basically, you don't learn how to trust yourself and have that belief in yourself where it's about you. Some people think of that as arrogance, that, oh, you're so sure of yourself, why are you so sure of yourself? And we end up minimizing ourselves, we minimize our capabilities, we minimize our interests, and when we do that, we shrink ourselves in rooms, in spaces we're meant to be true to ourselves. Even in our minds, we end up having a voice that says, don't do this, don't do that, instead of just trusting that who you are, whether it's perceived in a good way or a bad way, is you're living in the truest form and you're living in your truth. So a lot of people aren't living in their truth because they're so scared of being perceived as arrogant or know-it-all or showy or boastful. And this also leads to people thinking that trusting oneself is selfish, as if selfishness it can be a good thing to be selfish with your time, your peace, what you intake into your mind, and even in terms of healthy arrogance as well. Being sure of yourself and knowing that if you walk into a room, you're making the room better. That is trust in oneself, trust in the things that you do, trust in your capabilities. So another point that I wanted to talk about is, who have you been relying on, right? There's so many times where the people in our environment are also a part of why we end up shrinking ourselves and not living in our truest form and not, recognizing the truth behind what we're capable of. So it is important to understand or to interrogate, who have you been asking for advice? Like who are the people you've been asking for advice from? Do you want the life that they have? Do you aspire to be like them? If the answer is no, why are you listening to their inputs on your life and who you are as a person? Because some people aren't even qualified to tell you what you should be doing with your life, or to tell you how to attack a situation or deal with a specific situation, right? So it is important for you to understand that the stimulus that you're getting in your environment is also a part of whether or not this is encouraging you to trust yourself, or whether it's encouraging you to doubt yourself and not recognize your true talents. So I also said here, you know what you are. Okay, so I said that you know what you want and you're just looking for confirmation. A lot of the times when we're looking for advice from people, we are not necessarily looking. It's not to say that we don't already have the solution or we haven't thought of the solution. Sometimes we are just trying to get confirmation that, this is who you are, who you should be, whether it's right or wrong. We are constantly looking for validation from the outside. But trusting yourself is understanding that you don't need validation from other people. Instead, the only validation you need is from yourself. You're okay with being perceived as, oh, you are, self-righteous, you think highly of yourself. I don't think those are bad things. That is a compliment. If someone tells me I think better of myself, yes, of course. Why wouldn't I? Why shouldn't I? Right? And then I also said here, people may not know what you have been through, and they may give you advice which is out of context. You are the only person in your life who knows the context of your life, and to know the context of who you truly are and who you're capable of becoming. However, if you continually look for external validation to affirm that person, to have people say, yes, this is right, yes, this is who you should be, you are at the mercy of your environment. And that can be detrimental to the person you're trying to be. It can be detrimental to your self-image. Because let's take, for example, someone who's not confident in their body. You can constantly look for validation by, posting, your pictures that are revealing, so that you can get this confirmation that your body is beautiful. But if you have the inverse of that, having that trust in yourself and having that self-confidence, is you being able to walk around in your room naked, you being able to look at your body and appreciate it and say, you know what, I look sexy, I look good, I look this, right? And you don't need that external validation, but it is beautiful to have as a bonus. But if you don't have your own internal belief system that you trust in, when people put you down or say, you know what, you've gained weight, you don't look good, you're like, okay, that's your opinion. It's no longer, informing your self-image. But if you take in that stimulus that your body is, you're not looking good, you don't look attractive. If you take that external stimulus and bring it internal, it can end up affecting not only your self-esteem, but how you perceive yourself, your self-image, who you are as a person. You're trying to prove yourself. You're trying to prove yourself to people and posting for the benefit of getting that validation and proving that person wrong. That much of energy should be directed internally, so that you can learn how to, trust in your self-image and know that, regardless of what other people think, this is what I think about myself, and that is what I'm holding as currency. So, who have you been trusting, right? When I ask that question of who have you been trusting, that can be people that are really close to you. People like your parents, people like your friends, people like your spouse. Who are you trusting, right? To tell you who you are. A lot of people don't even know themselves. They don't know who they are. And that means that there's situations where people project their own insecurities, their own inferiority complexes, and their own beliefs onto you. And they try to make you fit into their perception or their perceived matrix or version of life. Some people can have a perception that in order for you to say that you're a gym buff or you go to the gym, you have to look a certain way. You can't be overweight and say, yes, I go to the gym, I'm a gym buff. That is a perception that person has, but you don't have to have that perception. You can choose what it is you're intaking from people and what it is you're leaving out. And that is discernment. You have to decide, what you're allowing to affect you on the inside. And then I said here, rewire your brain and block out the fear of being perceived. We have such a huge fear of abantu bazothini syndrome. Yazi, abantu bazothini is killing the youth. Abantu bazothini is holding us in a chokehold, and we are literally living in what will people say. Like, we constantly, everything we do is what will people say. I can't do do this. So for example, today on my walk, I went on a walk today, but I went barefoot, right? And this was in turn, just about me getting strength from the earth, and also me acknowledging my ancestors, because my aunt passed this previous week, and I've been connecting with her and connecting with her spirit. So I needed to go for a walk, because we're actually about to make it rain. The clouds are even coming and showing. But on my walk, there were many people who, okay, not many, it was two, but I could see from the people's faces that there were a couple of people who were like, why is this person walking without shoes? So two people asked me out loud and said, why are you not walking with your shoes? For the one, I told them that, listen, I'm basically praying in the Zulu version. So I basically tell her that, no, I'm praying, that's the reason. The second person who asked me, I'm like, this is just what I need to do right now. It's what is giving me strength. So if I had the perception of, or that notion and belief of, what will people say if I walk barefoot, like I will look like I'm poor, I will look like I'm destitute, because I don't care about what people perceive me to be, I was able to do my 5K walk barefoot with peace, with knowing that this is what I need, this is what will give me strength today, this is what will ground me, because that was way more important to me than what people will perceive of me being destitute, me being poor, me being lost or crazy or something. Because I don't care about that perception, it frees me to do whatever it is that I want to do, without the whole voice in my head of, oh my gosh, abantu bazothini. So be very wary of fearing how you are perceived by people, because there will be people who perceive you in a good light, and there will be people who perceive you in a bad light, and that neither of those things are your responsibility, neither of those things are anything that you should be carrying as a person. So I say all of that to say that when you trust yourself and trust in who you are as a person, and trust that your intentions are good, you are good, or whatever it is, when you trust in that, when someone comes to you with a completely different version of who you are, you can attribute that to their lack of comprehension. You can attribute that to them not understanding you, and leave it at that, and not carry it and say, oh my gosh, someone perceives me as being arrogant. I don't care if you think I'm arrogant. That's not a bad thing in my eyes. In my eyes, it means that I'm sure of myself. In my eyes, it means that I am confident in what I can do and what I bring to people's lives and to people's environments. So because I'm sure in that, it frees me from trying to defend who I am, because that's also what we end up doing when we are fearing how to be deceived. It's almost like we're performing for these people. We're making energy in order to create a self-image that they can be comfortable with. And in that situation, sometimes you block your blessings, sometimes you shrink yourself and think that, oh, I don't want to make my friends uncomfortable if I do X, Y, and Z. If I pursue X, Y, and Z, I know that this person is going to feel inferior, this person is going to do whatever. I was living in that life all the time, where I was always trying to manage other people's emotions. Other people's emotions and perceptions are not your responsibility. That is not on you. That is their own social conditioning, their own brain that is programmed in a specific way, their own beliefs, their own insecurities, their own trauma. So how has that got anything to do with you? And how is it your responsibility to constantly show people who you are when they've already made up their mind on who you are based on their own perception? So that is an important thing to let go of. My next point is, don't try to be perfect. Focus on making progress. Be in competition with your past self for the benefit of your future self. when you let go of being perceived, right, you also let go of trying to be perfect. Because when you are trying to have someone perceive you as, you know, you're capable of stuff, you can strive for perfection, which is an arbitrary um, destination that we never arrive at. We never arrive to perfection because nothing is ever truly perfect. So you're never truly satisfied with what you've done. But when you let go, I mean, it's really hard. I know this because for me, I'm a perfectionist and I'm impatient. So that is a winning combination of suffering, basically, because you're never satisfied with what you've done and you always think that there's better that you could have done. But when you let go of that perfectionism and rather focus on progress, you end up enjoying the journey of getting to the goal. So for an example, my goal is for this channel to be, you know, a community, for this channel to help the people who are going through stuff through my own diary, because this is my diary, and through my own experiences, you know, expand the wisdom that I've gotten and gained from my experiences, and also to grow it, to have it be large. You know, I don't want to put a number to it, but to have a large following. That's the goal. But right now I'm at like 673 subscribers, which I'm amazed at and I'm grateful for, because I've done that over, you know, just a 3-month period basically. And if I was so concerned about having, let's say, 100,000 followers, I would not be enjoying the fact that I'm currently at 673. I would not be enjoying that. Listen, you've done 19 videos, and out of those 19 videos, you've gained almost 700 people who are agreeing, who are, you know, who think that this channel is worth following, right? If I don't appreciate that and the present, how is my future self going to appreciate then the 100,000 followers that I'm, you know, hoping to gain? You end up not enjoying that progress, because I started at 1. I started at 0 actually, or I started at 1 because I was my first follower on my personal, you know, YouTube. So I started at 1 and now I'm at 673. I can appreciate that progress because I'm not looking right now at the 100,000 that, you know I will get in the future. I'm looking at the past self who had 1 and the future self who now has 673. So I am at peace with what I'm doing during the journey, and not only looking at the goal and where I want to be and then not appreciate where I am now, because that's what perfectionist is. You end up not getting a chance to enjoy, you know, your current state, because you're so fearful of failure, you're so fearful of mistakes, you're so fearful of it not working out, you being embarrassed, having shame, having regrets. You're so fearful of all those things that you end up either not trying something because you're like, okay, is it even going to work out? Or you end up not enjoying the progress too, which is the whole point. The goal at the end is basically just the view at the top to say, this is what you have been doing. Just like climbing a mountain. If you enjoy, I love the uphill of a climb because I feel like, you know, sweating, my heart rate is going up, you know, I'm having challenges of rocks and trying to find which angle is the right one to walk up on and most comfortable. And because I enjoy those hikes and I enjoy the process to the view, I can then I can use that same, you know, I guess skill or belief into my life, where I'm enjoying the journey rather than enjoying the destination. The destination is a bonus. The journey is what is the most enjoyable part, or what should be the most enjoyable part. But when you're so focused on perfectionism, which is I need to reach that goal, you then just are at the mercy of that goal and your environment. You're not at the mercy of your intrinsic beliefs and what you are doing in order to get there. So, next part, or the next point I wanted to talk about is deconstruct your mental programming. So, like I said, there's many people in your environment who will talk to you and say, oh, you shouldn't try this, you shouldn't do that, you know, are you sure it's going to work out, you know, all the expenses and investment that you're putting in, are you even going to reap any rewards? Because I remember for myself, I didn't want to start this channel until like I perfected, you know, directing and, you know, having a clear picture, you know, editing it well, putting words and things on the screen. Right now I'm not there yet. I'm still just on my journey. And what I had to I had to deconstruct the notion of perfectionism, of this has to be perfect from the first video. You are watching real-time growth where, you know, when I first started my channel, I was using a different phone with less quality. You know, I didn't have my tagline of my channel at the corner like I have now. You know, I didn't have a few things that I have now, basically. So that could have hindered me even starting. But because I was at a place where I'm like, this is my diary, this is my journal. I'm not doing this for anyone else. I'm not doing this for the perception of what people are going to think. I'm doing this for me. And I'm hoping that it benefits others. But if it doesn't, or if it does, that is just the bonus, right? So deconstructing that belief system that you have, which can be imposed by other people. This could be imposed by your parents and childhood that, you know, don't be careful, don't try this, don't do that, don't do this, right? And there's so many things that people can say that we intake. So for an example, I have a cousin who told me about how she struggles with body image. And there was a time when there's a situation, or like in school basically, some girl made a comment about her weight, and or not even her weight, I don't even remember the story completely. It's either a comment that was made about her specific weight, or something that was said about someone else that she internalized. So that one comment has now transformed into something so much bigger, where, you know, she is having such a difficult relationship with her self-image based off this one comment. So it can definitely happen where you internalize people's beliefs that are not even yours. That is why you need to deprogram or reconstruct your programming and rewire your brain to understand what are actually your beliefs, right? What do you actually want to be? Who do you want to be? And then figure out which voices are your voices, your actual beliefs. Figure out what your voice is, and what your true belief is, rather than emphasizing or ruminating in other people's imposed beliefs. So deconstructing the brain, it is hard work, because you have to assess what is yours and what is not yours, and what you want to keep, basically. So then I go on to make a point about assessing and protecting your environment. So when you assess your environment, who are the people who make you feel like it's not in line with your self-image? Who are the people who don't understand your character? Who are the people where when you say something, you have to measure your thought process, you have to measure what was said, and protect yourself from those people. Put boundaries, lessen the time spent with those people. No matter how close the relationship is, you have to decide that you and your self-image is more important than, you know, performing for these people in order to fit into a box that they have. So then I go on to say, what is self-image? So let's actually Google that and talk about it a bit more. Self-image. So self-image is the idea one has of one's abilities, appearance and personality. So it goes back to trusting yourself, because we say it's the idea of one's abilities. If you trust yourself, you then have a positive self-image about your abilities, because you're not looking for validation externally to say, you're so good at painting, you're so good at this, you're so good at that. You're not looking for that external validation. Instead, you're looking to be better than you were before. You are just focused on, this is where I'm at. I just started painting, I suck at it. And then you keep doing it more and more, you gain more and more confidence, you get more and more trust in doing it. And then when you expose yourself to other people with this thing, whatever it is that you're good at, then people can just have either a confirmation or not one, like the opposite, negative, a negative view of what you can do. But that does not inform who you are for you. That does not determine whether or not you do the thing or you continue doing the thing. Another one is that, so another definition is, in psychology basically, self-image is how a person thinks and feels about themselves. So when you have a negative self-image, your thoughts about yourself are negative. You can have language where you're talking about, oh, you're gonna fail at this. Is it even gonna work out? People aren't gonna follow. People aren't gonna be interested. Who's gonna be interested in, me? I'm not a celebrity. I'm not an influencer. When you have that negativity, you actually feed into that, you water that notion, and that's your garden. Your garden is a garden full of negative flowers. Whereas if you have a positive self-image where you're like, this is going to work out. I know I have a great personality that people are going to connect with. I know that I have something to give, I have wisdom to share. I know that this is going to be successful. And you don't have doubt in what you can do and your abilities. When you are so sure about that and so firm in that belief, it can't be shaken by what's external. It can't be shaken by people who do not understand, who do not have context of how you got to that, how you got to the positive self-image. So how do you create a positive self-image? You start by making a list of who are you as is. The things that you say to yourself, the things you believe about yourself. What are you good at? Who are you outside of your title, meaning outside of your work, outside of being a spouse, outside of being a parent, outside of being a sibling, a daughter, or whatever. Who are you as an individual? You write all that whole list, the good, the bad, the ugly. Then you make a list of who you want to be. I want to be somebody who speaks kindly to themselves. I want to be someone who gives themselves grace when I fail. I want to be someone who's willing to fail. I want to be someone who learns from their mistakes. I want to be someone who grows and learns and gets better and better at what I do. When you know where you are and where you want to be, you're able to figure out what is the gap and how can I get there. Okay, I need to block having negative thoughts. So when a negative thought naturally comes in, because that is now your automatic state of mind, your programming, right? You then actively say, no, I don't speak to myself like that. I don't say I'm stupid. I don't say, how could you do this? Instead I say, we'll do better this time. We will learn from this. We will get better at this. That, when you do that intentionally more and more and more, you then learn how to have that positive self-image and speak to yourself like a loved one. You are your first loved one. And you need to learn and start by figuring out how to best support yourself before you start seeking it outside. Because when you seek it outside and you yourself don't have that within, you are at the mercy again of your environment. When that person leaves, or if you stop being friends with that person who was giving you the positive validation that you needed, you may be insatiable also, in the sense that even when you hear the positive feedback, you don't really receive it because you doubt what that person is saying, because you doubt yourself. You treat people how you want to be treated. That's the best way to start, and being active and being awake enough to figure out, okay, these are the negative thoughts, these are the positive thoughts, these are the things I want to throw away, these are the things I want to keep. Figure out who you are and who you want to be. And then the last point I want to talk about is be at peace with the fact that you will lose people on the journey back to yourself or to your future self. You need to be willing to be ruthless about who you keep in your circle, because your environment determines how well you can thrive and how well you can trust yourself. And it's hard to do so when there's people around you who are constantly criticizing you, constantly doubting you, constantly, making you feel belittled. If you are constantly in that situation and you allow that situation to continue, you will fall back to your previous habits, even when you are trying to rewire your brain. So if it means taking a step back from people, I'm not saying don't be friends with people, I'm not saying completely cut off your family, I'm not saying you can't keep these people around, but you can limit your interactions with them. You can put boundaries to say, listen, don't talk to me that way. I don't respond well to that. When you can articulate and learn how to be active in creating a positive environment, that helps you internally as well, because then what is inside is affirmed by what is outside as well. So if you are trying to have that positive relationship with yourself, the relationships around you need to also reflect where you're at. And sometimes if you were in a negative state, the people that you've come to know and the people that are around you have that negative aspect as well, because you also yourself have that quality. So you have attracted those people into your environment. So when you are changing and you're trying to change, you need to constantly be assessing every relationship around you, because you may have outgrown those people. You may not need those people in your life anymore. So you can distance yourself. You can ghost them. I don't believe in ghosting. I do feel like you can give someone an indication and just say, listen, I don't think that we can be friends anymore. I'm just in another space. And I tend to respect people who can do that. There's many people, okay, I won't say me, there's a few people who, have articulated such a thing. And I can respect that. I'm like, okay, if I'm not a good friend to you and I'm not someone you want in your life, that is okay. That is your prerogative. That is, it's your responsibility to protect your peace and create those boundaries. So learn how to create those boundaries so that you can have peace of mind, and you can then easily try to have a positive self-image and have an environment that reflects that positive self-image, because that is important. Community is important, but having the right community is essential. So yeah, that's all I have today, and I was thinking a lot about this, and I probably will have another video or a vlog about this again, because I think it's such an important topic that is so difficult to action. So yeah, I'm going to think more about what further tips can be shared regarding this. But for now, I leave you with love and light. I hope that you got everything that you needed, and all the best with your journey to self.